All right, so this next panel is about NFTs in film and entertainment. If you guys know anything about the entertainment industry, it's pretty hard sometimes for these content creators, for these people to be able to monetize what they are bringing. And so I am very hopeful that NFTs is going to change that, and they're also going to make it so people who watch the movies, people who are huge fans, will also be able to benefit as well from their loyalty to those series. So I'll let you go ahead, and John is our moderator for today, so start it off.
Swipe up.
Swipe up, guys. Here, I'll trade you. Take this one. Oh, no, never do that to a microphone.
All right. Apparently I do not know how to turn on a microphone, but thank you, everybody, for coming today. This is going to be an amazing week of just NFT and crypto insanity. My name is John Kraski. I am Director of Strategic Partnerships for NFT Genius, which is a Mark Cuban and Ashton Kutcher venture-backed NFT entertainment studio. We're right now building a marketplace called Gala on the Flow blockchain, as Dapper Labs is also one of our investors, and we're focused on 5 key verticals in the entertainment space: TV, film, music, sports, and pop culture. And I have 2 amazing panelists with me today to discuss Hollywood and NFTs. First, yeah, you.
Hi, everybody. Hey, it works. Hey, everybody. Really exciting to be here. Amazing to see how many people have showed up to this event, right? I mean,
It's wild. I mean, I almost, I didn't think I was going to be able to get in, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I literally had to like stiff arm the guy at the door to get in. So I don't know. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. The lady at the door let me in, thank God, because I wouldn't have made it through that lineup.
So my name is Devin Ehrig. I represent a group of companies, primarily of which the one I'm the general manager of is known as Area of Effect. We are a production company that works on feature film and television development and production in Hollywood. We are partnered with the legendary VFX producer Robert Legato. He worked on everything from James Cameron through The Last Jungle Book, through Avatar, Titanic, all those things. And we experiment with new technologies in development and production of film and TV. So that includes everything from adopting cryptocurrency and NFT, blockchain-based technologies for production finance, all the way through digital items and assets into different scenes that we produce, and using video game technologies like Unity, Unreal Engine to create virtual worlds, which we then adopt to the set for filming. If any of you have seen The Mandalorian and have seen some of the techniques that they innovated to create some of these new ways of filming and capturing stages with big LED displays rather than using other types of older traditional techniques, that's what we specialize in. And so the marriage of those digital technologies with blockchain-enabled tech and digital ownership creates a world of new possibilities that we're just beginning to explore.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. All right. You're up.
My name's Leo Matchett. I work with Decentralized Pictures Foundation. We are a company that was spun out of American Zoetrope, which is the production company that Francis Ford Coppola founded in the late 60s, and has produced many films over the last 50 plus years, many Academy Awards and so on. Decentralized Pictures is a nonprofit that is building what we're calling the virtual studio. The first application in that virtual studio is the film financing application for independent artists. We have a focus on financing films for artists from underrepresented and underserved communities. It's all on built on the blockchain, and really the idea behind it is that a large diversified group of people can have a better sense of what's good creative than a small non-diversified group of people. So anyone who wants to access the pool of funds can submit their idea, and anyone who wants to give their opinion can help decide who gets the money from the fund. So it's a democratic, decentralized film fund. All the voting is on the blockchain, and we're excited to discover some great talent and curate some great content. NFTs come into play, of course, as well, but we can get into that in a sec.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Devin, I have a question for you. We've seen a lot of mainstream adoption in Hollywood, from like Jay-Z to Paris Hilton, of NFTs, and I'm just kind of curious, do you think that's a good thing for the space, and what are some of the drawbacks?
So I've been involved in the NFT space, particularly as it connects to VR and gaming, for at least 6-7 years. It was before they were called NFTs, I was doing it. So, the uncool kids in the back room of the editing bay. At that time, we had built a NFT-enabled car racing game that essentially let you control and drive your own car and walk away with it in your NFT and trade it. We launched that at Consensus a couple years ago. Nobody knew what the hell we were talking about. So I think the benefit that we've seen Hollywood's adoption as far as personas and sort of larger personalities and famous individuals getting excited about the market has helped to bridge the gap between sort of, the techie, the cool kids involved in tech, and then bring that to the forefront. I think one of the biggest challenges that it has done, it has obscured some of the potentially larger benefits that this type of technology can bring into the industry and the type of evolution it will bring over time, based on the fact of, oh, look at this, big name brand goes and buys a big thing, right? We all saw Quentin Tarantino and Miramax's issue from a couple of weeks ago. That's really just the tip of the iceberg, and frankly, digital IP rights are something Hollywood's known about a long time. Like, it's not, we went through this with Napster back in the early 2000s, right? So the underlying tech may have changed, but those type of issues and that type of fame isn't really the whole story of what this evolution of this technology will bring into entertainment. So I think that's probably the drawback.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So Leo, I was recently talking to somebody at Netflix, and they don't have NFTs on their roadmap. I'm kind of curious what you think, that fact that a big streamer like Netflix doesn't even have NFTs as part of their future roadmap.
Well, I think they're missing out. With streaming and services that sort of are all you can eat, the use case is not as clear to me as, say, theatrical or click to view type of services like you would get on Amazon or Google Play or Apple, where you could mint an NFT at the time you purchase it and then burn the NFT at the time you consume it, and there's a really clear sort of use case. But I think that that's a mistake, and I think that they should definitely at least get involved somehow.
Yeah, I mean, Devin, I'm sort of curious of your thoughts on it. I mean, what do you think of the big opportunities and challenges are for those streamers? Because, I mean, it seems to me like a lot of people go on to Netflix and just binge watch, and then they leave the ecosystem. I feel like the NFT can keep them in the ecosystem, so I'm just sort of curious.
So I'm so happy you brought up Netflix and chill, right? Because if you look back to like the early 90s, American TV was way different than like British television, for example. We didn't have the concept really of series running like a whole story arc through multiple episodes. That was something that happened overseas, and that was because of the financing models and the way TV put it together. All of a sudden, streamers come, and now we can sit there and watch 10 episodes of a show that go over a big story arc, and we all just accept it. Huge change from the way that American television used to be produced. So what does that mean? I mean, Marvel's probably the shining example of this. They've done great. This whole idea of a franchise world, right? It's not somebody who just watches and enjoys their show anymore. They watch their show, they go online and talk about their show, they play a game that reacts with their show, they're chatting about it with their friends, they go to a theme park with the show theme, they go to a convention, right? The idea of a franchise world that comes around can become incredibly important if the people that make the show are able to access more, right? So I think the nuance of what you're asking is that relationship between the big streamers like Netflix and the producers who create the shows and sell them to Netflix to work. There's room in that to grow right now. It's a big opportunity, and that's where I think people have kind of missed out a little.
Yeah, if I could I totally agree. And the collectibles opportunity, badges as NFTs that you could earn by binge watching the entire season in less than 12 hours, whatever the case is, or just having watched every episode of some 15 season show, you should get a badge for that. So I think, and that, like you said, would bring people back to the platform because they can, show off their badges to their friends, or maybe even sell them if they want to. So yeah.
John, I did see a couple of your YouTube video chats that you talked about this. I mean, you've talked about this online too. What are your thoughts on it since you asked it?
I think it's a huge missed opportunity, honestly, and I think that the magic of an NFT is community, right? Because it's all about secondary sales, and finding your tribe, like-minded, like-spirited individuals. So I think when you watch your favorite show, like Sex and the City or Friends, you want to interact with your tribe and talk about your show, and you don't do that right now with streaming or even music. Honestly, Spotify, another prime example of a company that's in big trouble. So in terms of NFTs, maybe it's on the roadmap, maybe not, but it's again, it goes all back to community. That's the magic of NFTs, not only from a human level, but also from a financial level. So I think when I sit down with and talk to a brand or a celebrity, the first thing I talk about, it's not creative. Everybody wants to talk about creative and trying to figure out what they want. Talk about really ask yourself, what is the community that I want to build? That should be their first question always when developing a product roadmap. I mean, I don't know. What about you guys when you guys sit down with an entertainer, a producer? What kind of conversations are you having to kind of build out a product roadmap?
It's for our perspective, we do different types of projects, right? We have a company that it focuses on building AAA games and launching them. And if you stay for the blockchain gaming panel after this, you'll hear some about that, what's going on. We have commercial production projects, which are activations with art and brands, and you'll see a lot of that in Miami this week during Art Basel. It all kind of depends on the nature of what you're producing. And what I found so far, and you guys, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, I've found that there's a lot of excitement in the NFT community about being able to see these new forms of media finance and production take hold. I found that there is a lot of public hesitation and confusion in the public sphere around sort of Hollywood, entertainment, production world. But privately, people are actually quite excited about it. So there's this split kind of between what a lot of people are interested in, investing in and buying privately versus what they're willing to, say, package and take as a deal to one of the big studios.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, something that's interesting that's happened in my world is a lot of big brands now are reaching out to me, like Facebook, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Amazon. They've all reached out in literally the last 3 weeks, seeking major alpha. So the smart minds and smart money is coming into space now. So I mean, it's going to still take them a while to catch up, but the big brands are coming, and that just means more opportunity for everybody as well. So I mean, the other thing I see a big need for is having really familiar, accessible on-ramps from Web 2.0 to 3.0, because that's the key to mass consumer adoption right now. It's still too clunky. I mean, the process is not fun of purchasing an NFT, selling an NFT, minting an NFT. Nothing about it is smooth. I mean, do you agree? Or?
Yeah, totally. It's you need to have control of your keys, use MetaMask, sign transactions. It's not a sort of click and go situation like in Web 2. And I think that cracking that cookie or that puzzle will really sort of drive the industry forward significantly. Yeah.
One of the aspects of that I find in Hollywood doesn't get talked about enough is the video game industry did this. For everybody here who's not as connected in this side of the world as we are, even though video games sit in Santa Monica and Hollywood to North Hollywood sits all the production studios, up until about 10 years ago, they were oil and water. They didn't really talk to each other. And now we've seen at the production level, all the way through the finance and the story creation level, we've seen this interest get more and more solid. And I think NFTs are going to ride on that interest just as much as the idea that NFTs can get out there and make a big market. I think the convergence of the ways that we think about storytelling and building from a video game standpoint to a traditional linear film pipeline standpoint is going to help drive a little bit of this interest too. Because they really, I mean, really 10, 15 years ago, the video game guys didn't talk to the film guys that much, and vice versa. It was a little different world.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of video games, Discord right now is sort of the way that brands and celebrities build their communities. I mean, do you really think that is going to be the best tool for mass consumer adoption of building community, maintaining community?
I think Discord is the best of what we have right now, but no, it is also quite clunky. I mean, not to knock it, I love Discord. I'm on there all the time. We use it, but I think there's opportunity to make that better and to integrate it directly with the blockchain so that people can trade NFTs in the chat. You see Twitter now is doing some of that with the tipping and the badges for NFTs, on the profile and things like that. So it's starting, but a chat app like Discord, I think, would be well suited to integrate something like that as well.
Man, if you're asking me what the 10-year-olds of today are going to like to group together and communicate with 10 years from now, I got no clue. COVID and that experience wiped any pretense I had of knowing what's going on in that direction.
So I'm curious, Devin, in terms of kind of opportunities for big entertainment companies, celebrities, I mean, where do you see the big opportunities for them in the NFT space?
I see it going forward in the creation of new projects and the ability for them to kind of work on that personal brand and build audiences. The challenge is, in the old way of financing big film and TV productions, you package a deal, which is not just one guy with an idea. There's a writer, there's a director, there's agencies to work with the talent to attach to it. It's actually a little city that you build before you even go to a studio, a TV network, a video game publisher, somebody else to go get the money. Crowdfunding came out in entertainment for a long time. We were just chatting about that beforehand. To crowdfund $1 million to get an indie film together, that's hard but doable. To crowdfund a $200 million blockbuster budget Marvel film is probably not going to happen, NFT or not. That's a lot of money. And so how you do that involves these larger studio players. And the problem is, once you've done that, you have sold the digital rights to them. They are paying a lot of money to produce this film so that they can work with their networks to go those rights. So I think for the projects that go on that path, it really is going to be kind of a mutual partnership adoption. But for projects that you can kind of create on your own and stuff that can kind of break out and cultivate your own audience, that's where we're going to start seeing some of the exploration. And that's where that push and pull is going to be between the larger sets of institutions. Because I wish it was as clear cut as, hey, creator goes on TikTok, makes something cool, NFTs it sells, and that's the next movie. It's the reality of the entertainment industry is it is big dollars, it is high pressure, it is a lot of stuff. And that will be accounted for one way or another as we go forward.
Absolutely agree with that. It takes a city to make a film. It's a team effort. I would say, to answer your question about biggest opportunities, I mean, cut out all the middlemen. There's just so many layers to the distribution and waterfall and residual processes. And I think NFTs are a really great use case to do that. Like I touched on earlier, a ticket can be sold and an NFT can be minted, and when that NFT gets cashed in, it can be burned, and that's all on the blockchain. So you don't need the freeways and vintages of the world anymore to do collections. You can literally have a transparent accounting system that everyone can validate and verify that.
I can't agree with you. Smart contracts are a godsend for the private film investor. They really clear up. Hollywood accounting is a thing. We all know it. And as individual investors coming into films, we fight it just as much as everybody else does out of the industry. So there's ways that this stuff can help improve that process.
It's funny you mentioned that. I mean, before I got in the NFT space, I used to be a CPA, and one of the issues we just had, we did a major launch with an athlete, but the legal contract was not actually, it did not mirror the smart contract, and then there's no integration in the accounting software yet. So it's still clunky. So yeah, that magic you're talking about, but none of the accounting software is linked up to it yet, so that still is not able to happen, even though that is the big dream.
It's huge. This is what I meant, in my first comment initially. there's ramifications to this that will echo throughout the industry. And frankly, it's one of the ways LA is such a weird city compared to all the other big cities around the US. Like, it's so diverse in the way it's been built together.
Yeah.
There's so many players that build up this Lego stack that makes the building.
Yeah.
It's, and frankly, this is why I think Wyoming has made some really exciting laws and changes. This idea of being able to have an entity based on the smart, I think those are the type of first steps that help us break into the next layer of changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. It's so early still. I mean, it's mind-boggling. But the thing I'll say about the NFT space is you have guys like Mark Cuban and Gary Vaynerchuk who became ultra wealthy in Web 2.0. They basically identified the same patterns here in Web 3.0. That's why they're going all in, and they're both invested in over 100 plus NFT companies. But I would just say anybody, even if you don't know anything about NFTs in your audience, still jump in. There's plenty of opportunity. If you're passionate, if you're hungry, get in there, get involved, because you will definitely not regret it.
Agree. Yeah. This is a very exciting time. I feel like we're just on the horizon of breaking through into mainstream. I mean, take entertainment aside, all of the other industries that can benefit from this system and this transparent accounting that's possible through this system. So, yeah, very exciting time.
100%. Explore it. Explore the artists that are putting stuff out there. It's only going to get better the more artists and the more creators participate in the ecosystem. So get out there and explore it, This is what it's for.
Yeah, so I think we're at time.
I think so.
At least if this is correct. So
We've got these flashing numbers in front of us.
Yeah.
We're not really sure what they're for.
I don't know. Is there anybody out there in the audience that has a question or? Yeah. Yeah.
Audience participation, and how do you think that's going to sort out on the regular?
Oh, wait, you're getting a microphone. Yeah, just a question from him, yeah.
Oh, hi, I'm John.
Yeah.
So my question was, how do you think allowing for audience and fan participation is going to play with the big production companies and traditional Hollywood? Because I'm working on an NFT streaming project, and a lot of investor pushback has gone, they're like, well, you want to be on the billboards, and so we took a short, we put it on chain, and we sold it to super fans, but the big feature films, still going. So what are your ideas, and how do you think that concept of audience participation, but still, having blockbuster exposure, and how's that going to play out?
I mean, I can talk about this if you guys want me to. Okay. So, without me jumping into my legal background here, the challenge, you could think about it like an art gallery versus making an investment. When people go to an art gallery to buy a piece of art, even though they think it's going to appreciate, that's why they're buying art partially, it's still collecting art, versus what is a digital token or a finance. We're not 100% clear on that. The government kind of sees it as one thing, we see it as another. There's a regulatory crowdfinancing, there's very low limits on that. So again, I can legally crowdfinance $1 million. I can't 100 million. I'm not legally allowed to do that. I have to do it differently. So I think we're not going to see a connection that goes from a crowdsourced, I hate using the word ICO, but from a large scale public release of tokens into major film financing. I don't see that happening unless there's a shift in the change to the way government regulators work. I do see private funds slowly adopting ways of raising money from what we call professional or sophisticated investors. So the way private family funds work now with films, I see a transition from that as a very clear bridge into what you're doing. But as far as funding these big $100 million blockbusters, you're hitting up against laws in the U.S. that work a certain way, and so there's gonna take time to evolve that if that is the direction where things go.
What about just a pilot? And this is your last question. I'm going to kick you guys off.
Well, I mean, if Go ahead.
Well, you said, or streaming rights. The challenge with streaming rights is there's a streaming platform, and if they have financed your project, they're going to want those rights to recoup, right? So, yes, theoretically, you could hold on to those rights, but where are you going to get your financing from? Like, a gentleman over here mentioned, sorry, say it one more time.
Like something as simple as a pilot. Like we're looking at like $100 million.
So potentially you could crowdfund or crowdsource a pilot, and theoretically, if you, I mean, again, you're getting into questions of what is a security law, but theoretically, if you went through a crowdfunding platform and covered yourself in the regulation, and that allowed for an NFT type release or a DAO token type release, theoretically, you could go crowdfund that way, or if you went to a place like Wyoming where they permit a DAO company to be formed and you stayed within the boundaries of what a private Wyoming company is, meaning you didn't have 1 million investors, you kept it
I'm
in the
going to
rule.
have to say that he's got some really interesting things he's talking about.
That could
Wyoming is
work.
one of the only states that allows you to tokenize your company in a very legal manner. Reg CF, the crowdfunding is something that Obama opened up for us to be able to crowdfund. They also raised that limit to, I think, 2 million from like 1, which is, I think, actually 4. But you know what? Don't quote me. Meet the guys over there behind the black screen
Sure.
if you have questions. This is a very interesting panel, so give it up for them, you guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
By the way, I am not giving anyone here legal advice. Do
Not
not listen to that.
But please, behind the black curtain for you guys that have questions, those are really interesting.